Jeff, it's a wicked pissa being out here in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts.
Ray, you can't say wicked pissa out here.
Why not?
Well, so you might notice if you talk to, I don't know, anyone around here that there's no Boston accent.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I never thought much about that.
So once you get west of the 495 loop, the Boston accent drops off considerably. And out in Western Mass, I mean, they really don't use it at all. And you may do well to hold it back so, we can blend in.
Why do you think the accent drops off so much here?
So I think part of it is a protest. People around here don't feel as connected to Boston. All the politicians live and work in Boston, and they don't really pay much attention to the western part of the state. And folks around here, they take it personally.
All right, so what are we looking for besides a lack of Boston accent?
So, Ray, we've come to Western Massachusetts to search for a small town, arguably the Commonwealth's most mysterious town. A town tough to find and elusive, but one that's received a lot of state funding over the years, and a place that caught the attention of the United States Air Force at one point. We're going to explore the mysterious town of Ripton, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Ray Auger.
And I'm Jeff Belanger. Welcome to episode 347 of the New England Legends podcast. Thanks for joining us on our mission to explore every legend in New England, one story at a time. And did you know most of our story leads come from you? This one did, thanks to Tony Dunn, the fearless producer, director, and editor of the New England Legends television series. He sent this one in. You can check out our latest episode of the television series right now on Amazon Prime. And if you've got a story lead you think we should check out, please reach out to us anytime through our website.
We'll explore the mysterious town of Ripton, Massachusetts right after this quick word from our sponsor. Okay, I admit it, I've never, ever heard of Ripton.
So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has 292 towns, 59 cities, located in 14 counties, and I can't fault you for not knowing all of them.
Which is saying a lot because we've explored stories in dozens of Massachusetts towns.
Yeah, we have. And I'm sure even our elected officials don't know them all. And between my story tours and research, I mean, there really aren't too many towns in Massachusetts I haven't at least passed through. But this will be my first visit to Ripton.
We're in Berkshire County, Massachusetts. This is the westernmost county in the state that runs the entire length of the northern border it shares with Vermont. To the southern border, it shares with Connecticut. The Berkshire Mountains are out here. The music venue, Tanglewood, is pretty famous out this way. That's in Stockbridge.
Right.
It's been the summer home of the Boston Pops since 1937.
Cool.
And in the autumn, everything out here is picture-perfect New England.
All true. However, some of these towns are pretty small with not a lot of population. Still, they need funds from Beacon Hill to upkeep roads and infrastructure just like everyone else.
According to some old letterhead, the town of Ripton, Massachusetts was established in 1767. It's in Berkshire County, and although no famous or even infamous people ever hailed from Ripton, this place is small-town America that deserves as much of our tax dollars as any other town its size.
Now, that is 100% true. It was back in the mid-'80s that Ripton started to make some waves. So let's head back to 1984 and visit Ripton.
It's July of 1984 here in Ripton, Massachusetts. Ronald Reagan is in the White House. Michael Dukakis is the governor of Massachusetts. And When Doves Cry by Prince is the #1 song on the radio. America is enjoying some good times in economics, fashion, and music.
But in Ripton, Massachusetts, there's a problem.
And what is that problem?
Well, the locals are upset that hunters from the Boston area are making a mess of their environment. Plus, there's an extreme lack of stocked trout in the town's river and pond. So after their annual town meeting, always held on June 31st, they file forms on town letterhead with legislators in Boston. They're seeking $50,000 for stocking trout and fixing up the shores of Lazy River in town, plus $10,000 for weed control and cleanup in Derry's Pond.
Well, those numbers seem reasonable enough.
So the forms are submitted to the folks in Beacon Hill and Boston. And the annual budget is passed. So, Ray, go ahead and read these two lines from the 1984 state budget.
Okay, this is one long paragraph outlining all kinds of line items for various towns.
Sure.
But this first part says, quote, a sum not exceeding $50,000 shall be used for riprap and general stream maintenance of the Lazy River in Ripton.
So riprap means to fortify the banks of a river with stones. I had to look that up.
The second part reads, quote, an amount not exceeding $10,000 shall be used for weed control and cleanup at Derry's Pond in the town of Ripton.
Right.
Well, there you go. The town got what it asked for from the state's annual budget, and Governor Michael Dukakis signed off.
It's now the spring of 1985, and the United States Air Force is looking for a location to construct some early warning communication towers in Berkshire County. The town of Hawley, Massachusetts, is located about 15 miles west of Greenfield, looks like the perfect location for these towers.
The only problem is the people of Hawley don't want it. The towers will mess up their beautiful skyline. The project is not welcomed by the locals, so they raise a fuss.
And that's when the first selectmen of Ripton step in and offer up their town.
Ripton isn't a bad choice at all. In a letter to the Air Force, the town managers explain their topography and location is pretty similar to the town of Hawley. So the Air Force sends some scouts out to check it out. The Air Force personnel drive through Berkshire County looking for Ripton. There's only one problem.
What's that?
Well, they can't seem to find it.
Really? How embarrassing. Come on, Air Force, do better.
Right?
So it turns out there's a good reason the Air Force can't find the town of Ripton.
Why is that?
Because the town of Ripton doesn't exist.
Wait, what?
It never existed. The whole town was made up as a prank.
A prank?
A prank to prove to legislators in Boston that they don't pay any attention to Western Massachusetts. That the bureaucracy is so bad, they didn't even notice the town wasn't real.
So what happened to the $60,000 allocated for Ripton?
So it never arrived because the Massachusetts Department of Revenue couldn't find Ripton either. So the money sat in an escrow account until the jig was up and all the funds went back into state funds. And that brings us back to today.
Okay, this is a lot of trouble for a prank.
The prank was the brainchild of George Derry.
I bet that's where Dairy Pond came from.
And you'd be right. George Derry was the town selectman in Lenox, Massachusetts, and the chair of the state's Fisheries and Wildlife Board. Now, he teamed up with some conservationist friends, including Berkshire Natural Resources Council co-founder George Wislocki and Lenox Land Trust co-founder Sally Bell. It was Bell who came up with the name Ripton.
And there's no body of water in Massachusetts called Lazy River either.
There is not.
And it's only occurring to me now that Ripton's annual town meeting was held each June 31st.
That's right.
There is no June 31st. There's only 30 days in June.
That's right again.
So the signs were there that this was just a prank.
The signs were everywhere, which was part of the point.
I mean, this is a great prank. I'm guessing once it was found out, lawmakers in Massachusetts closed the loophole there and now make sure no one tries to slip through an imaginary town.
That's the funny thing. So in 1991, Ripton made another appearance when a proposal was launched to place a landfill along the Appalachian Trail in Hinsdale, Massachusetts. When the people of Hinsdale raised a stink, a letter arrived from Ripton town officials offering to host the landfill.
It seems like part of the prank is centered on environmental issues.
Yeah, everyone involved cares a lot about the environment, so no surprise there. Also, in 1992, Ripton made one last wave on Beacon Hill when the town of Ripton officials in air quotes here, asked for $400,000 to establish 5 positions to investigate the, quote, predaceous activities of the endangered Howame analyst.
We're guessing Howame means house ways and means. Tell me they got the $400,000 through.
So it made it to the preliminary budget, but then they were found out.
They didn't even try to change the name from Ripton. You think lawmakers would learn.
They don't learn. They never do, and that's part of the point. I bet if today Ripton issued another request for budget funds, that request would make it further than you might think. All these small towns in western Massachusetts, even central Massachusetts, often feel forgotten by lawmakers. Things have improved, but the bitterness is still there. You can't blame them for pulling a prank on occasion.
Well, sometimes a good prank forces changes. If politicians can't get it done, sometimes you just got to send in the clowns.
When in doubt, always send in the clowns. And that brings us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive into this week's story and quite often veer off course.
After the Legend is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. Our patrons help fund everything we do with this podcast, our website, our travel, hosting, events, marketing, and everything else it takes to bring you 2 stories each week. We can't do it without them, and the only thing missing is you. It's only $3 per month, and for that, you get early ad-free access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. To sign up, please join us at patreon.com/New England Legends.
And to see some pictures of the Ripton town letterhead, not much else to see, quite frankly, click on the link in our episode description or go to our website and click on episode 347. So one other fun fact, George Derry, one of the Ripton's founding fathers, He created an annual Ripton town calendar each year and sent it to all of his friends. And he did that until his death in 2018.
That's awesome.
What a prank, huh?
Yeah,
I mean, I love when stuff like this comes up, and it just points out the absurdity of things that are going on around us all the time.
And the humor.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that there were state officials, there were people that are involved in politics saying, let's see how far we can pull this prank.
Yeah.
And I know they were looking for attention, obviously.
Sure.
But there's a level of humor to it that goes beyond prank.
So there really is bitterness out in Western Mass. I mean, you could
I
talk
think it
about
starts in the Brookfields, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Whenever I
sure.
mention I'm from East Brookfield, nobody knows where that is.
Right.
Even when I say, I have to say Worcester, Leicester, Spencer, Brookfields,
Right.
down Route 9. And even they get lost at Leicester or Spencer.
your best move, because I was born in Southbridge.
Yeah.
And they're like, no one knows that either. But then you just say Old Sturbridge Village.
Exactly,
And they go, oh, yeah.
Because every kid in New England went there.
They're on a school trip. And you're like, no, next town over. That's where I was born. So, hey, would you mind if we jump to Texas for a minute? Would that be okay? So on April 1st, 1971, Texas State Representative Tom Moore proposed the following resolution. Relevant. Ray, can you read part of the resolution?
Sure. The Honorable Albert DeSalvo has unselfishly served his country, his state, and his community. His sincerity, diligence, and cooperation has earned him the warm admiration and affection of his fellow practitioners, and widely esteemed for his knowledge and unique skills. His outstanding service to the public has won him recognition as a model of active citizenship, a champion of worthwhile causes, and an acknowledged leader in a singular field. And he has been officially recognized by the state of Massachusetts for his noted activities and unconventional techniques involving population control and applied psychology.
So for those of you who forgot or didn't know about Albert DeSalvo, actually, let me say first, so Tom Moore put this forth, the Texas legislator, saying we should honor him, and it was passed unanimously. No, nary a dissent, passed unanimously. And he made the point that, folks, Albert DeSalvo is the Boston Strangler.
Well, I'll tell you what, reading that myself and really not paying attention,
Yeah.
it just, this sounds great. Put it through.
Right.
He sounds like an upstanding individual. Go ahead.
And that was 1971. So the Boston Strangler was still sort of fresh in the national psyche. And so it was April 1st. It was an April Fool's prank. And his point was, you don't read it. And if you do read it, you don't do any research at all.
I read it and I wasn't reading it.
You're like,
nothing was computing in my mind.
And you're from the area.
Right.
Like, so, I mean, Texas, okay. You know what? I'll forgive you from Texas for not knowing Albert DeSalvo. But anyway, he was the Boston Strangler. And so this guy, Tom Moore, was making a point that you don't read it. Now, the good news is, obviously,
there's a lot of keywords in here. There's a lot of buzzwords, if you will.
Population control. He's a murderer. So,
right, but they spun that into something positive, I guess.
Know.
Unconventional techniques.
No, sure is. And applied psychology.
That is amazing, because that fooled me.
Yeah, right. And so he put this thing through. Now, of course, the good news is, between that from Tom Moore in 1971 and the town of Ripton in the 80s and even in the early 90s, obviously now we know and we can sleep at night knowing our politicians read everything thoroughly. They understand it all. They do their own research before they sign something.
You think they're doing that now?
No, it's only worse, because some of these
That was
bills.
sarcasm, good.
I know. So some of these bills that go through are like 1,000 pages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm a slow reader.
And there's stuff hidden in there.
Yeah, and like if you get it on Monday and you got to vote on Wednesday,
Yeah.
I can't read 1,000 pages by Wednesday and do anything else.
And there's no cliff notes, I don't think.
Well, someone
There
supposedly
may be an outline, but
there's like assistants that are supposedly reading it. So like it can't be done. That's not a reasonable request of any human being. Here's a 1,000-page document I need you to read and vote on by Wednesday. I can't do it.
and all they want to do is clean the weeds out of a lake, but it's a 1,000-page document.
right.
Because something's hidden in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
by the way, we're also going to turn it blue.
Right.
That's it. Just, it's already blue. That was a bad color. to
And
pick.
we're going to
You
murder
get it.
everyone in 3 counties, just for an experiment.
Right.
Oh, I didn't read-
Population control.
I didn't read that part. I just read the weed control, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds good. That sounds reasonable.
Right.
Helps some town get rid of their weeds." So anyway, this stuff comes up from time to time, and what's great is like the prank always works. There's always egg on the face of the politicians, and nothing changes. But I think if I'm always a fan of the court jester can affect more change than anyone else in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Right. The one that cracks the jokes about how absurd things are
Well, look who's getting canceled in cancel culture. It's comedians.
all the time.
Because they have a voice that people listen to.
Sure.
And they're saying the most outrageous things for just comedic purposes.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything they say, but those are the people that are getting canceled because we listen to the court gesture.
I was recently, I've become a big fan of Jimmy Carr. I don't know.
I love Jimmy Carr.
British, yeah, very funny. And there's
one-liners.
One-liners.
Yeah.
But he's moving a little more narrative now. But anyway,
he's also dark.
He's dark and he's sharp as
oh my God, he's great.
Sharp as can be. And he talked about there's jokes and he's right, right? But at the same time, we know how humor can be an effective weapon.
Yeah.
You can say something and smile and laugh, and it can cut deep.
Sure.
So I get that, but anyway, so a great prank, a great joke, sometimes points out the absurdity of stuff that's going on around us all the time, and that's how we deal with things. I think about the Catholic Church scandals. How many jokes came out of that one?
After any major disaster,
yep, there's jokes.
There's jokes. And it's how they cope, though. It's how people cope.
Sure.
And I get it. And I do the same thing. I remember after the Challenger.
Oh, right.
Going to school the next day with the jokes.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah. But if you really dig in, it's helping people cope.
Absolutely.
Laughter. And
with the Catholic Church scandal broke, all those jokes, part of me was just like, you know what? This keeps this out there on the minds. I tell that joke, and if you're deeply offended, I tell you what. Change the culture, right? Change the culture so that horrible thing that we're making jokes about doesn't happen anymore, and then the jokes won't work because
nothing to joke about.
There's nothing to joke about.
Yeah.
So fix it.
Right.
So I think sometimes humor and pranks can really make a difference, and I love that they created a town called Ripton. Sounds like it would exist. Like if I said Ripton, Mass, you're like, oh, that's probably out west somewhere, right?
I need a T-shirt with that town sign on it now. That'll be for sale soon once we get our store going.
Well, every Massachusetts town sign is the same.
Yeah, I know.
It's just
we just put Ripton on it.
Established 17, whatever the year was, I forget already.
That's great.
Yeah. So anyway, the town of Ripton, big fan. We're big fans of Ripton. We might have to build.
We'll have to visit someday.
We'll build a summer home there. We'll build our summer studio in Ripton.
Please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast because our pod is free and we don't want you to miss a minute of the weirdness. These legends are like a sermon from the past. There's so much we can learn about ourselves, so please share. We also deeply appreciate it when you tell others about us or post a review. That's how we grow. And the more people who listen, the more weird story leads that come in. Thanks for being a part of this community with us.
We'd like to thank our sponsors. Thank you to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
Ripton is closer than you think.